the quickest way to figure out that you may be needing some help with the branding is if you're in a social media situation and you're trying to figure out your social media strategy and
Mm-hmm.
you're realizing it's either all over the place
Mm-hmm.
or not really connecting, it's not really
Mm-hmm.
saying anything to an audience. That's branding. So
Mm-hmm.
branding is what you want to say for the next 20 years. Marketing is what you want to say for the next 20 days. And
Mm-hmm.
so marketing strategies come and go. You can have fun with it. You can experiment. You can do all of that stuff. Branding is the foundation of the house. If that is not there, and it's not just a logo, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Oh, it's so not just a logo.
that drives me crazy too when branding agencies just, create the visual elements.
Yeah.
There are three major elements of the brand: the image, the narrative, and the product and the service that's being provided.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the narrative to back up everything, then you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, my extraordinary women friends. I have to tell you, I love brand work. It's something that has been a passion of mine for decades. I've had the privilege of working on some massive brand initiatives in my career as a VP of marketing and brand, leading complex brand strategy for multinational billion-dollar organizations. But honestly, the work I'm doing now with women entrepreneurs is so much more fun. It's all about helping women build their brands from the inside out, speaking their clients' love language, and truly standing out in the world. At the Extraordinary Women Ignite conference, we will be diving deep into branding and thought leadership work that will help you walk into 2025 with a powerful voice and presence. Whether you are looking to grow your business, attract your soul clients, or lead with more time and wealth prosperity, Ignite will give you the tools to elevate your brand and make the impact you are meant to make. Join us on October 24th through 26th in beautiful Golden, Colorado, and get ready to raise up your voice, your vision, and your visibility. I promise you'll leave with clarity and a plan for the year ahead. You can grab your tickets at cammygellner.com/ignite. And don't forget to use the code EWR to save $200. If you're serious about growing your business with more impact and joy, this is where you need to be. Now, on to today's guest. And let me tell you, she had me at Johnny Cash. Laura Bull is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to branding. She's the founder and CEO of the Brand Management Company, a best-selling author, and an expert at turning creative entrepreneurs, whether they're celebrities, founders, or anyone with a vision, into powerful business brands. Laura's background in the music industry is legendary. She spent over a decade at Sony Music working with artists like Carrie Underwood, Brad Paisley, and of course, the one and only Johnny Cash. In this episode, we talk about the unique method of branding a person, how she helps entrepreneurs discover their personal brand identity, and why branding is essential for standing out in a crowded marketplace. Laura also shares some incredible insights from her best-selling book, From Individual to Empire, A Guide to Building an Authentic and Powerful Brand. You're going to love this conversation and walk away with so many gems for your own brand. Now, let's meet Laura Bull. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio. Laura, it's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so where are you joining us from today?
Dallas, Texas.
Ah, very good. I bet it's hot down there.
It's actually glorious because it's
Oh,
been
is it?
raining.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So it's in the 90s, which thankfully it's not in like 120 area. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm headed down there in a couple of weeks. I always go down there in August for the eWomen conference, and it's always really, really warm. So,
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be around, average, which will be like the 90s for you. So you're getting in a good year.
Oh, good. Excellent. I like to hear that. So you have been spearheading brands and developing brands for people like Carrie Underwood, Brad Paisley, and Johnny Cash. And that's just flipping amazing. As soon as you said Johnny Cash, you had me. And so, and you were also one of Sony Entertainment's youngest executives at the young age of 28. Tell us a little bit about that story.
That was a very long time ago. Yeah, so I was responsible for the marketing and artist development for a couple of the imprints. So Arista RCA Records.
Uh-huh.
And I was there for a little over a decade, maybe just a decade. And And so I'm used to working with people who are the product that they are selling, right? And so
Mhm.
I've been doing that since the 90s. Um, I won't say how old I am, but
That's all right. That's
um,
we gain wisdom that way.
yeah. Well, it's funny because, you know, personal branding is such a hot topic right now. And it's like, we just never used to call it personal branding, but that is what it is, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I always call it influencer branding because it's really what I do is I help people figure out their personal brands and their personal brand identity, if you will. But then I transform that into a business brand with revenue streams, etc. And so I call it influencer branding.
Yeah. Yeah. So this how did you get into the music world and that space?
I just always wanted to be helping other people build their dreams, really. I
Mhm.
mean, that's,
Mhm.
and I was just musically inclined. I am not great by any means, so don't get it wrong. But, you know, I was doing the all state choirs and things like that. So I just always just really loved music. And I think that that's
Yeah.
what drew me to the music industry. Um, and I fell into the marketing side of things, which I thought I was going to go down a different path and do A&R, but I went down the marketing side and I realized that I'm still being just as creative, if not more, in a lot of situations
Sure.
with the branding and the marketing strategies. So I
Excellent.
stuck with that.
Excellent. And then how did you really move into the world of business branding or branding people who are in business?
You mean outside of the music
Yeah.
industry? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I left the label, I started my own consultancy. It was still pretty much focused on the music industry.
Mhm.
And then I went back to get my master's I ended up getting a dual master's in creative writing and in communications. And I did that because I had an idea for a book that I kept seeing the same things over and over again when I was meeting with independent artists that were potential clients, right?
Mhm.
I kept
Mhm.
seeing two major disconnects. One, they did not understand the difference between marketing and branding, which are
Mhm.
totally different things,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
And so I'm on a soapbox every day trying to let people know, hey, these are two different worlds. And then the other thing is that branding a person is completely different than branding an inanimate object, right? So,
Certainly.
so anyway, so I had this idea to write this book, and then it took me 5 years to write it, um, and and it basically turned into I realized while I was writing it that it was much more broad than just musicians, right? There's so many people, especially in today's the age of the narrative, as I call it. Um, there's so many people who are the face of their brands, who are selling themselves as the product, right?
Right. Right.
And what that product looks like can be 50 different things. So I always say, you know, like the chemical composition is of a perfume, right? Is the product itself. That's what you're selling. But you can sell that chemical composition, the smell, in different forms, candles, you know, bath salts, whatever. So I'm trying to help people figure out what that chemical composition is for them so that they can
That
smell it.
very essence of what their brand is
Yes.
and bring that to life and let
Yes.
that really shine that
Exactly.
inner light. Yeah, and I often call that, what's that light of you and how are you bringing that out into the world? Because if we can let that flame shine and light up, it really, that's where people start to feel us. And I think brand really helps people feel who we are.
That's exactly what branding is. It's the emotional connection, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, very good. Um, why is brand so important to women entrepreneurs? When you look across the world of women entrepreneurs that you get to work with, what is it that you think that brand brings to them?
Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
100%, 100
Mm-hmm.
times over confidence. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the number one thing because I get to work with some extraordinary women. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, from just starting out and future celebrities to already celebrities to everybody in between. I think that they all have spent their entire lives really trying to focus on what their product and their service is. And I jump in and I help them with that narrative. So, what is the narrative that is sellable, yes, of course, competitive, yes, of course, but also very authentic to who they are, right?
Right. Right.
And when I can clarify and focus that for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've made people cry in relief. People with millions
Mm.
of followers already, right?
Right. Right.
It's the um oh, finally. It's just like
You
it's
get
such a
me.
weight off. Yeah, and it's such a concise thing that they can then take that and tell everybody that.
Right.
So any business meeting that they have to go in, any pitch session or any sales situation they have to go to, they can sum it up and they don't have to. Something that I see that plagues a lot of people is they listen to too many voices
Mm-hmm.
and it confuses them, right?
Right. Right.
And so one of my job is it's just me and my client. All the other noise goes away,
Mm-hmm.
and we dive in that way. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, how does an entrepreneur really know they need help with their branding?
So again, it's the uneasiness about what they're saying and how they're saying it. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, the quickest way to figure out that you may be needing some help with the branding is if you're in a social media situation and you're trying to figure out your social media strategy and
Mm-hmm.
you're realizing it's either all over the place
Mm-hmm.
or not really connecting, it's not really
Mm-hmm.
saying anything to an audience. That's branding. So
Mm-hmm.
branding is what you want to say for the next 20 years. Marketing is what you want to say for the next 20 days. And
Mm-hmm.
so marketing strategies come and go. You can have fun with it. You can experiment. You can do all of that stuff. Branding is the foundation of the house. If that is not there, and it's not just a logo, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Oh, it's so not just a logo.
that drives me crazy too when branding agencies just, create the visual elements.
Yeah.
There are three major elements of the brand: the image, the narrative, and the product and the service that's being provided.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the narrative to back up everything, then you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about, and I so agree with all of that. I mean, for years, I was my former life was a VP of marketing and branding. So I lived in that space, and we went through so many brand rebrands and over the course of the years of very complex organizations. And what I learned over all those years is the deep work really comes from the brand, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's where the deep work happens, and then the marketing can really flow from that. So I so agree with all that you're saying there. Um, let's talk about influencers, and I know you're wanting to redefine the term influencer. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is an influencer really these days, right? Like you could be a PTA mom, you could be a city councilman, you could be George Clooney, right? And the thing is I want to redefine what that looks like. You can have a very small audience and be influential, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and you can have very brand loyal followers, and you can have a very large audience and have brand loyal followers. But you also, it's not just on social media, right? Social media is not multiple revenue streams, right?
right, right.
You don't know based off of somebody's follower count what their business structure looks like and how they're actually
Exactly.
operating,
Oh, I
right?
love that you say that. I think it's so important that you say that.
Right. And it's very important that, like, for instance, I get a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't need a web page. I'll just build it on whatever social media platform. And it's like, well, you don't have ownership over that, right?
Hmm.
You're creating a profile and you may be spending tens of thousands of dollars to promote it. And at the end of the day, you don't have any connection to those people if Facebook shuts down tomorrow,
Right.
right? So that's one thing to note. You have to have your own assets.
Hmm.
But like George Clooney, like I just brought him up, he doesn't even have social media, yet he's out there influencing the entire world. So, um, there's keep helping people remember that there is other communication channels in the marketing plans,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's not just about social media. And
yeah.
honestly, and I get this question too a lot, which social media platform should I be on? Well, it's 100% dependent on the brand, the voice, what that brand identity is trying to say, because there's certain audiences on certain platforms.
Hmm.
You can't be everywhere. I mean, our resources are finite, so we can't
Hmm.
be every single platform every
Hmm.
single day, right? Especially for those starting out. So there are some brands out there that don't even make sense to be on social media in general.
Right.
That may
Right.
be the answer for some people. It's just no, um,
Give us some
it's just,
examples of brands that don't belong on social media. I mean, besides
oh, well,
beyond George
George
Clooney,
Clooney.
beyond George Clooney.
Well, see, now you put me, I can't think of something off the top of my head, especially like a product based company. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm just using that as like an example in the
Right.
sense of it. You don't immediately go, okay, yes, if my marketing side says, yes, I want to be on every single platform. I want to get every single impression possible known to man, right? My branding says, you should only pick the platforms that make sense for your brand identity, because then it could come across as
Yeah.
disingenuous to the audience.
So
And
give
that
us some examples, like who's a great person for LinkedIn, who's a great person for Instagram, who's a great person for Facebook
we
kind
got to
of
think about who's
approaches.
on which. So LinkedIn is obviously very business driven. So
Right.
you're looking at any type of CEOs, thought leaders. They can do really well there. I think
Hmm.
the last time I checked, who's Virgin? Uh, who's the CEO of
Oh,
Virgin? Like
what's his name? I
blonde
can't think of his
hair.
name. Yeah, I can see him. He likes to have fun.
Yeah,
He has the island. Yeah.
Peachy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I cannot think of his name right now. I feel like I need to Google that.
Is it Richard?
Yes.
Yes, Richard somebody.
Why can't I'm just seriously drawing a blank? That is so
Oh, I
crazy.
am too. I totally am. No, I'm
Like
gonna
it'll
go
come to us
crazy.
by the end of the episode.
Totally, totally, totally.
He, I think, the last I checked, has the highest follower count for his newsletters on LinkedIn. So just giving that as an example of like what kind of would work better there. Instagram's obviously more visual, so you want more
Richard Branson.
Branson. There it is. Thank you.
Yes.
I love that you're over there Googling it like
Yeah, I'm like,
this.
what's, and I'm looking on my Instagram. I'm like, what's his name? I know that I only have so many Richards on my Instagram. So,
That's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then, Instagram's more, like I was saying, visual. So if you don't have a very visual brand, it's kind of hard to get your
Hmm.
message across there. So, I mean, every platform has its own little, um, elements that you should keep in mind when you're trying. And so like when you're talking about from a brand perspective, so deciding what platforms to be on is a marketing thing, right? But from a brand perspective, it's more about the voice, the message. What exactly are you trying to say?
Hmm.
Even if you say it in a different way over here than over here, as long as it's
Right.
saying the same thing, that's the brand, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah. No, I like that. And one of the things, I mean, because there's a lot of influencers out there that are, I'm guessing, aren't probably making the dollars that,
They
that,
think, yeah,
yeah,
that they
that they
want you
think
to
they
think
should,
they're
that
making.
their numbers might represent, right? And
Right.
so it's really important to be able to, translate that influencer status into a revenue stream and
Yeah.
and a business that really is viable. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's absolutely true, but you can see that in every industry right now. Like a musician, for instance, um, can I talk? Instance, um, touring brings in a lot of money,
Hmm.
but it's really difficult to be touring all the time.
Right.
Records don't make any money anymore.
Right.
So what else are they going to do? They have to bring in a bunch of sponsors, or they have to build their own product lines, or their own tequila brands, or whatever that looks like, right? Or their own
Yeah.
bars. So I think anybody who is the face of what they're selling is understanding that they have to create more revenue streams just to get by in today's world. It's just a different, especially in the entertainment world, because movies are cheaper with streaming. CDs are now, $1.99,
Yeah, the
depending on the day.
music industry has changed so dramatically that
Yeah.
that's just, I mean, that's probably one of the industries that's changed most dramatically.
Yeah. Well, the movie industry has too because of
That's
streaming.
true.
Streaming's shaking up everything.
Yeah.
Copyright issues, AI issues are hitting them now. So again, it's about trying to figure out, trying to relearn in the sense of like my first chapter in my book is an example using Beyonce and having Beyonce partner up with Home Depot, and
Hmm.
it's just a made up commercial I made up. Um, so the point of that though is to show that it's not really just an endorsement, right? That's not really how we should be looking at it anymore. It's really two brands coming together, right? Because if the message and the brand of Beyonce doesn't really work well for the brand of Home Depot and their message,
Hmm.
then it's going to end in disaster for both brands, right? It's
Right,
going to
right.
make them both look disingenuous. Um, and I do have some more examples in the book about transference and what that looks like with partnerships. But anyways,
Okay, excellent, excellent. Um, when you look at women entrepreneurs, what do you see missing in their brand building?
I mean, 100%. Um, I will say 90% of the time when a client comes to me, it's because it's a narrative issue. When I start
Okay.
doing my audit process and I start digging in and they don't know what's connecting and they're not sure and they've already done all this work over here and have their web page and all that stuff built out. Um, or they've already built out millions of followers, but it's just stalled out, right? Something
Hmm.
is going on. When I start doing my audit phase, which is the first phase that we go through with anybody that we work with, it is 90% of the time a narrative issue.
Okay.
And so that's what I see. I see a lot of entrepreneurs trying to cut corners and go into their branding by creating a logo, creating some colors and whatever looks pretty. Whatever
Yeah.
looks pretty, we're just going to put it together and, oh, I like this font. And it's like, that's not how you build a brand. You consciously choose certain elements from fonts to colors
Yeah.
to evoke a connection and emotion with the target audience. So,
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. What is essential to building a successful brand?
I mean, let's see, that's a lot. Where do I start? Um, yeah, I would think the narrative side is the most important thing in understanding what your brand pillars are. And
Hmm.
that is not content pillars, that is brand pillars, totally
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
So you really have to have your brand purpose, your target audience, a shared value.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't factor in a shared value, but a shared value is a value that you have
Hmm.
out of the many, many, many values that you have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But one that is super connecting to the audience. So your target audience all shares that same value with you.
Yeah.
Um, and and something else I was going to say is that like branding a person is different than a product because
Hmm.
if I was working for Jeep, right? If I'm in the boardroom at Jeep and I'm sitting there trying to sell it to a target audience that we all deem is the audience we want to hit, I'm going to sit there and put on a personality, right? I'm going to say this car is rugged and outdoorsy and fun and this is what we're going to create, right? A person already has all of these personality traits. They have a
Hmm.
lifetime of experiences and they have priorities and values. And there's so many aspects, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's different because my job is to go into what's already there, but then pull just a few elements together that will be sellable. What is your outdoorsy rugged fun? And what does that look like as a cohesive package in the marketplace?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And it's when it starts from that inside out of who you are,
Right.
that's where you really start to just be authentic to who you are. I mean,
It's the
you're
only way
showing
to
up
do it.
authentically, right?
Yeah.
Versus trying to project that you're something that you
Yes.
want to project. I mean, there's a big difference, and people can feel that,
Oh, they can feel it immediately. Yeah.
right? And so,
Nanosecond.
yeah, and that inner work starting there actually lets people into who you are. And I think that's
Absolutely.
really, 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 really important. So you've got
No.
a new book out, From Individual to Empire. Tell us a little bit about it and what prompted you to write that now.
Well, like I said, I kept I kept giving the same anecdotal stories to clients, trying to explain what branding was, trying to explain why it's different than branding a Jeep, right? And so I ended up writing this book. I like to say it's female forward
Hmm.
because obviously I wrote it. So it's from my perspective and my life experiences. It's very pulp culture heavy because of my background and
Hmm.
actual things that I've worked, etc. But every single chapter focuses on a mega influencer who they all just happen to be women. Now in the chapters themselves, I use male examples too, so we don't leave the guys out. But like chapter 1 is Beyonce, chapter 2 is Oprah. We've got Taylor Swift in there, Reese Witherspoon, Sheryl Sandberg, Martha Stewart, Ellen. Like there's a lot of different characters, if you will,
Sounds fun.
that we utilize. And then, so the first part of the book is about that introspection, lots of positive psychology, lots of helping people figure out what those internal factors are that could be your personal brand, right? The
Yeah.
second part of the book is my brand matrix, which is a Venn diagram that shows how you discover your brand pillars from your image, your narrative, and your product and the service that you're providing. And then I break down what those 3 areas are and what they look like when you're done creating everything. And then the third part of the book is about evolution. It's about how do you separate your private narrative from your public narrative so that you can protect yourself as the product, right?
Yeah.
And then about how to evolve correctly over time without, because your priorities are going to change in life. A person is going to change, right?
Right.
But a brand cannot change or you lose that connection, right? So I always say, when it comes to a brand, evolution is not change. So you can evolve and you can get ahead of the curve, right? Without having to change your brand. So just a lot of tips about that. And at the end of every chapter, there are like my homage to the West Wing is, and my Aaron Sorkin homage is the what's next section. So it's action steps that you can do at the end of this chapter before you move on to the next chapter. So it is, it's a fun read, but it is also like exercises and things like that. So at the end of the book, we hope you have a brand statement that you can work with.
I love it. I totally love it. So where can our listeners learn more about your book, learn more about you?
Okay. So, well, the book is, it's currently still in the airports, Hudson. It is everywhere, ebook, audiobook, hardcover, paperback. I have to think about what formats they're in. And so you can get that on Amazon or anywhere. My webpage is thebrandmgmt.com. So that's the
say
brand.
It again.
So it's thebrandmanagement.com. So it's thebrandmgmt.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, you can get the first chapter free. And we also have a checklist, a free checklist, like a brand checklist of items that we kind of take our own clients through. So if you're missing something, you'll kind of get the red flag. Oh, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. So that's an easy little one sheet.
Yeah, very good. And the final question we always close with is, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
Oh my gosh. Well, on branding,
On whatever you'd like that to be.
So I guess the 3 things is branding is what you want to say for the next 20 days and marketing is what you want to say for the next 20 years. Let's see what else. Don't be so hard on yourself as, when you get into the grind on the day to day. A lot of the times I see people look at the competition too much and they
I would
get
agree.
wrapped up in what they're doing, but they don't that you don't see what their days are like and you don't see what they're struggling with and stuff. So that's a big thing that will hurt your career if you do that. And then I guess the last thing is have fun with it. Have fun branding. Like branding should not be this stressful situation. I always bring my clients in and we're totally transparent. I want them to learn the process so that if they do need to evolve later, they know how to do that by themselves and they don't have to spend the money again to do it. So we always have fun. It's supposed to be something that you'll enjoy, for the rest of your life. So make sure it's great,
Yeah, I love that because I think branding is fun. I do think it's, when you do that work, it's like you're just bringing these pieces of you to life and that, you're lighting that fire of you. You're bringing you out in a brighter way. So I think branding is fun.
And once you get that confidence to do it, you'll shine even brighter,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, this has been fun. Thank you so much for sharing all your good wisdom with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet.
Anytime.
You bet.